This episode is sponsored by SKS Luxury Appliances. If you've spent time around Signature Kitchen Suite, one thing designers notice right away is the technology. The interface feels familiar and intuitive because it's the same engineering that comes from LG, the company that produces the systems used in many of the luxury vehicles people drive today. Clients recognize it instantly and know how to navigate it, but SKS is also investing in designers through their Designer Rewards program and by sponsoring IDC. If you're specifying kitchens for serious cooks, give SKS a look. Learn more at sksappliances.com. SKS, built for people who truly love cooking. Hi, this is Lori from To The Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have Yvonne Christensen with me. I'm so excited to talk to you because you run an amazing business, you and Nicole. And honestly, when I first saw your business, it reminded me, I don't know if you ever have seen Beth and Christine, like from the Pulp Design.
I don't think I
You know
have.
them? So they started a business and a partnership. You two started a partnership because you just met, which I always wonder if this is the direction a lot of designers were going to go. You know, I've been watching for the last years venture capitalists, VC companies coming into our industry in various ways, not necessarily in design 100%.
Yeah.
But because there are efficiencies to be made when partnerships come together, it's striking to me when people do that on their own because you're a business that has done a partnership. So we're going to get into all of that. I just wanted to tease you a little bit as a listener to wait and hear a little bit more about that. But let's start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your business.
So Nicole and I started as individual designers with individual businesses, and we each ran our own businesses for, I would say, 10 years before we partnered up. And it kind of just happened organically. I live in St. George, Utah, which is southern Utah, closer to Vegas, and she lives in Salt Lake City. And I had a client approach me from Salt Lake City building a secondary residence in St. George. I suggested the builder, and this very custom home slowly turned into a parade of home.
Right.
You know, so we have a very, nationally recognized parade of homes. I think it's one of like the best in the nation.
Yes.
And I at the time was going to have a baby. So I kind of came to the conclusion that I didn't really want to do the furnishing and staging side of it during having a baby. I had approached a few designers locally and no one just wanted to partner up. No one was interested in teaming up on a parade home. And I had known Nikki just through Instagram. We were friends for a little while. We'd only met once, and I messaged her. The client had a very similar style to what I think she could do for them. And like the home was beautiful and spoke for itself, but I just needed someone with that location and design eye and someone that was willing to collaborate. And she messaged me back instantly and she said, I'd love to do it.
Wow.
So that project turned out to be one of our best projects we've ever done. And I think it was because of collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always say
there's always strengths and weaknesses no matter what. And so did it feel right from the very first time you talked about it for you? Like, was it a little scary? I can imagine you're like, my name's going to be all over this.
I wasn't scared because I had seen her work and the builder was amazing. And at the end of the day, I was involved in the design of the furniture. Like I drove up to Salt Lake City and met with her and met with the clients and we did the collaboration of the design together. She just implemented it. And the home ended up being delayed for a year. So it ended up being that I was able to be there anyways when we came to the staging part of it, but we hadn't merged anything in writing. So it was, and I didn't have any plans on like becoming a partner with anyone. It was just a result of, wow, this is a little bit easier and a little bit less stressful when you have someone to bounce ideas off of and someone to ask for help.
I agree. I mean, this happens to designers all the time where they have a firm, they grow in the firm, even if you have employees. And then, something happens, you have a baby or there's a medical problem or, just life stuff kind of happens sometimes. And it's nice to have a support system. It's nice to have someone else that's running the show that can pick up the slack and, can be there to do those things. How has it enriched your business? Like what changed?
I would say the biggest piece
Excuse me.
of the puzzle that is making the business work still. We've been in business almost 6 years together officially. 3 years after our first project, we merged officially. So she's a Pisces and I'm a Virgo. And I think anyone who's into that stuff will say
Yes.
that like speaks for itself. But she's very creative and off the cuff and does well with clients who want to see 10 options and take 2 years. And I'm very process orientated and I love to everything to kind of follow a schedule. And I like the clients who want to set a plan and develop the plan. And so we're good at different things.
Yeah. That's where I sort of have had this theory in the back of my mind watching the interior design industry, because I've been paying attention to design businesses for 13 years. And I just really feel like design is one of those businesses that is prime for this kind of VC integration because, and I don't know how we'll live with it, but and if this will come to fruition, but from my perspective, the process side of it and the economy of scale of like ordering and billing and getting good pricing and navigating the shipping and the procurement and the stages that come into design. I can see why consolidation makes a lot of sense in this particular industry, and I think that there's so much value in designers being allowed to just kind of do the creative part, and having some support system in the back end part of their business. Not that we're going to dive into that 100%, but it's curious to me when I look at people who've sort of jumped into this and partnered, because you have to be a little bit afraid, right? Like that. What if this goes terribly wrong?
Yeah.
Which unfortunately I've seen that happen too. Did you have any qualms about that in the beginning? Did you?
Well, so we were very smart about how we merged. We merged in the sense of our furniture buying power. We
Okay.
opened up the accounts together. We opened up the banking and the credit cards. We still billed separately for our hours at the beginning. We had a really good talk before we partnered. She didn't want to work as much as I did.
Right.
She's a single mom and I'm somewhat of a workaholic, and I knew we would be working different amounts. And so what worked is we get paid for what projects we are overseeing. And then, so we billed separately at the beginning. And we are now in the place where all the billing goes to, one company because we have, employees and things like that. But
Right.
it allowed us to merge in a way that we were comfortable. I actually just had a phone call from a really good designer friend of mine, and she's thinking of merging. And I just said, do it slow. Like, there's no reason to
Yeah.
jump into it. We had a really good lawyer at the beginning and a really solid operating agreement. And honestly, I think what has made it work is we're always revisiting the operating agreement. It's always changing. Life changes and our
Sure.
roles are switching as our business grows a little bit. And we brought on a business coach last year, and we meet with him every Monday for 3 hours.
Wow. That's an
It's
investment.
it's a huge investment. He meets with our team, but he's a very, very smart individual. He works with CEOs of major companies. We were his first design company, and we were very lucky to get in with him. And the only reason he took us on is because he's like, I hadn't worked with a design firm before, and I just thought it would be fun and interesting.
Right. I bet
And
he's
he
learned a
has,
lot.
yeah,
This is a very complicated business, right?
yes,
So
yes, yes,
a lot to learn, but I always think, good outside advice is essential. There are
it's
so
key.
many great, there's a small firm. I don't know, I don't know who you work with, but there's a small firm that I met with a few years ago. They're called Elevated Outcomes. And they've got attorneys on staff, like people who've done major, work with major CEOs around the country. And I feel like it's probably a similar setup. It's all women in Elevated
Yeah.
Outcomes, but they have like CPA backgrounds and attorney backgrounds, and like there's different women who have different strengths in their firm. But how great to get somebody's outside perspective. And sometimes I do think the coaching in our industry tends to be a little insular, like we're just looking at what we do. And sometimes we need to be thinking outside the box. So that's smart. That's clever.
Yeah, lawyer, and we started with mostly just getting to know him, and he really helps us with communication, and he's helping us find what we're good at.
I love that. You know,
Digging into our
are there
financials.
surprises along the way for this? Has that happened? Has anything surprised you or stood out?
No big surprises, just we hadn't had time to do that sort of thing. You know, we're designers first and foremost, and when we merged running a business, I think we were surprised at how much work there was on the back end to actually have employees, how much extra work it creates.
So much extra work.
So meeting with him just forces us to sit down and talk about things we otherwise just wouldn't make the time for. We just
Right.
would kind of just deal with it as things come up. And that's not really very smart when you're running a
That's not
business.
strategic,
Yeah.
right? And that's when you want to start thinking, where are our efficiencies? Where
Mm.
are our ways to economize and grow and figure out what our buying power can do for us and consolidate, you know, all of those fun things that someone's looking at those fine numbers, you know, that can change the direction of a company. What was the hardest part when you think back on merging together? Was there anything that was particularly hard in becoming one? Like you did go slow, but was there anything particularly challenging in becoming one company?
No, I mean, there is a little bit of a challenge in marketing because we have a little bit of different design styles. We are able to take on more of a variation of clients, but we always struggle with how do we market our niche because there is two owners. Nicole very much loves the organic modern with textures and layers, and I at heart am a traditionalist and love classic homes that are one of ones that stand the test of time. So it does allow us to take on a lot more projects, but at the same time, we don't have like a specific niche that's marketed, which other designers can easily do because it's just their work. The second thing would probably just be location, with her being in Salt Lake and me being in St. George. Our head office is in St. George. That's like the only difficulty that we've kind of run into.
Is there more work in the Lake George area or is there more work in the Salt Lake City area?
Most of our work is in Southern Utah, but a lot of our clients are from Salt Lake and they're building second homes here. So the homes are being built physically here for the most part, but over the last year, we've been concentrating a lot on our renderings and our construction documents, and we've been doing a lot of e-design, which is great. We love working in other states virtually. We can travel to other projects, but we have a lot of projects that we're doing right now where we don't even need to travel there because our construction documents are so strong.
Wow, that's fantastic.
I mean, we can go there at this, when we're delivering furniture,
Right.
but we barely even need to visit during construction. With technology, we're just able to do everything locally here.
I love hearing that. I mean, I really love hearing that. There's going to be an event coming up in October called DPHA. There's the Decorative Plumbing and Hardware Association, and they have a small show, and it's going to be in Salt Lake this year.
I didn't know
It's
that.
very good. It's really neat because it's all the like more boutique-y bathrooms
Love
things.
that.
So it's a little bit of, some specialty plumbing, like the hardware stuff or the saunas and bathtubs that are like the fancy, fancy things.
Love that. We'll have to send our team.
Yes, you will. I will make sure. I am planning on going. I went last year. They were in Houston last year. It's very small. It's not like a big show. It's just little tabletop, but the quality of the brands, I was like, these are next level. Like these are the very unique brands that you're not going to see at the bigger shows, which I think is really what we want to see, mostly the designers. So check that out when you can. DPHA, they're excellent. So do you have, it sounds like because your styles might be slightly different, has there ever been any creative clashing or are you very, you can pick up and work on different things as you go and, oh, this is better for her wheelhouse, this is better for mine. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, even with a team, everyone has a little bit of a different style. So as the projects come in, I really try to match the project with the designer based off the designer's skills and availability. And I really try to make sure the homeowner is going to be a mesh with the project manager. Nikki and I split projects. We're not usually on the same project. Parade of Homes, sometimes we might both be on the project, but there's always a lead, and whoever is working with the other always is very respectful of who's the lead on the project. We're just really there to help and offer anything that might make the project better that yeah, so we will each take on separate clients and as like the creative director, and then we work with the project managers on our team we design everything with our team, and then our team facilitates it, kind of like a foreman to a builder.
Yeah.
But they're obviously designers as well, and are very talented. So I think that line of communication, one thing our coach has helped us with is an organizational chart, which we didn't have before. And that line of communication is very applicable to each project.
I think that those things are so essential. I've worked for major corporate companies prior to coming into this industry, and having an organizational chart, it really does boost your communication, because you know who to speak to about the right thing. And it constantly you're running around trying to find answers. If no one's assigned that role, it's difficult to figure out what those answers are.
Especially with two bosses.
I bet. Yeah. Like, who do we go to? Who's the nicer one today?
We had a consult in Salt Lake City yesterday that we went to together, because she has a home here and in Salt Lake, but it's going to be Nikki's projects. I just went with her to introduce her to the client who I'd originally seen. And we were leaving after, and she's like, I love that your recommendations are things that I would have said. And we know each other so well at this point. I know what Nikki likes, and I know what she's going to want to do with the job. And so I'm sort of suggesting the similar type of things,
Sure. Yeah. I love that too. Now, can you tell us a little bit about working with the Parade of Homes? Like, what was that experience like? I mean, would you recommend it to other designers? Was it a difficult process? How much press did it bring? All of those wonderful things.
So we've actually had 1 to 2 to 3 homes in every parade for the last 10 years.
Wow.
This year, we've elected to opt out. It kind of just came up naturally. One of the builders we usually work with, they both had clients that were already mid-design. Like, sometimes you think you're going to do a parade home and then you end up assigning it to a different house. And so we had an opportunity to take a gap year, and we just needed a break. It is a lot of pressure. You have so many eyes on the project, and there's a time crunch, and designers go in last. So every other trade gets all year to work on the project. And then we've been given homes the day before the parade starts to furnish. Oh. You're supposed to give the designers a week, and it can be very stressful. And what I find with the parades is they do monopolize a little bit of our time, and because everything's so time sensitive. So this year we're like, we just want to really concentrate on we have amazing projects going on right now. I want to give them our full attention. We are luckily at a place where our brand and our name is known around the state and even past Utah, and we can take a break. Yeah. But it did wonders for our business. Like, I still have people that will email me from a parade home. This consult that we just did in Salt Lake City, she walked one of my parade homes in 2021. Wow. And we're finally remodeling. And she's like, I loved your parade home. We were going to buy it, but we decided to remodel. So it's definitely, I would say, more lucrative in terms of getting business, not necessarily press. You always get a little bit of that sort of thing, but we're not in it for press. We're really just in it to connect with clients who have built, want to build, or may use us in the future. So
and the name recognition that goes along with it. I'm sure that you're associating your name with that level of work.
The credibility, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is something that goes back to the foundation of marketing, is getting a group of people to like, know, and trust you.
Yes. And
linking your brand to a brand that has that reputation automatically brings that credibility to the project. I mean, people would know coming into it that they can trust that you'll deliver, I would assume. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So how now today, let's just describe what your ideal project would look like.
Our ideal project is always going to be start to finish, full build, full furnish.
Yes.
Photography at the end. Creatively, it's just really fulfilling to see it come to life. Most of our clients are not fully furnishing their homes. They're building, and then they're bringing furniture from another home, or maybe they're in a stage of life where that's not financially feasible for them to do. Seeing that furniture and like everything wrapped up in a bow at the end is just very fulfilling for a designer. So that would be most of our clients really are second homes here, or vacation homes. They're in that stage of life where they're building kind of like a little compound for their children and grandchildren to all come together, and just getting to know our clients on a personal level, and being able to create whatever their goal is for the home. Really, we've done a lot of commercial Airbnbs and things, and we love those big projects where we're working with the client for an extended period of time.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that, I always say to the designers that we talk to about that, that final layer where they do the accessories and they do the art and they do all of the extra, the draperies, where you can really fully see what that home looks like. It's such a great investment too, from the client perspective, because this is essentially part of their real estate portfolio. And I've watched homes that go through that layer of accessorizing and adding the art and adding the drapery sell for 10 to 15% more than the homes that don't. I mean,
We've had
you
homes
get
in
that
the
money
parade
back
sell for $1 million
every time.
over the ask. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope every client, I'm going to wish that for you right now. Every client gets the accessory package.
It's funny you say that, because the client we just did the consult with, she's like, I'm fully capable of doing this on my own, but furniture is so expensive. I don't want to make any mistakes.
And that's
she's
what
just
happens.
furnishing. Yeah.
Right.
And, the things that she kind of started to buy, she's like, I know this isn't the right size. This isn't to scale. You really don't want to mess up when you're investing in, sometimes 6 figures worth of furniture.
Right.
You want to make sure it looks as best as it could be.
Absolutely.
Then we have clients that will do like base layer only, and maybe they have a love for design. Like we have a client right now, we just did her base layer. We did all the investment pieces, and then she's going to do the bedding and the decor and the art, and we'll probably come in at the end to help, but she wanted to go through that process as well, and that's great.
Right. How do you calculate your design fee for a new build? What does that look like for you?
It depends on the scope of work. So we are very, I would want to say, organic in our scope of work, in the sense that if a client comes to us and they just want a design book and mood boards and to like hand it off to them and their builder, that's going to be a different price than someone who wants our full service, which is going to be CADs and renderings and job site visits and estimate verification and help with procurement. So I spend about an hour and a half consulting with the person first to try to get out of them what they exactly are wanting help with. And then I will also call their builder and get what their builder's expectations are. The client doesn't know what the builder's expectations are going to be. So I'll say, do you require like a rendering of every wall? Are you going to require 3Ds? Are you going to require me being responsible for placing your orders through your, subcontractor vendors? So we prefer to do flat fee for new builds, but if I can't quite gauge how much work it's going to take based off like maybe a previous project we can compare it to, then we'll just do hourly, and the hourly rate is different per state, local rates. So the rate in Utah is going to be different than Arizona or California, because what they're going to pay in California for design is going to be higher than what we can charge in Utah.
Right. And also, the trades as well. So tracking down quality trades in those areas, that takes an extra level of time, and making sure that you are collaborating with people out of state takes extra time. So it's smart to build that way.
Also, the style of home. So a traditional home with a ton of millwork is going to take way more hours to design than a modern home. So that changes the per square foot price.
Sure. Do you have a fee range from a plan review through the installation? Are you looking for projects that you're going to be netting a certain number, or are you thinking
not necessarily?
Yeah.
We take on small projects too. Like we build homes for new home builders, 2,200 square feet. The project size isn't necessarily, we don't have like a minimum.
Okay.
We love working with a lot of different people. And with our knowledge, I love helping new homeowners. I just feel like for them to hire a designer on their first home is so smart. And
It is
I
so, I
really
mean, you learn
respect
so
it.
much, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a minimum spend that you require if you do those kinds of projects?
We actually don't. With furniture, we do. It really just depends. We don't really have a minimum spend, but we do include shipping and warehousing in our furniture prices. So in order for it to make sense, it does have to be like a minimum of 30 to 50,000 for furniture. Otherwise, we can't get like shipping discounts and things like that. And it becomes too expensive for the client if we have to start charging them for all that stuff.
Right. And it adds
We
up. I mean,
we
certainly
do
now.
prefer installing all at once because also like dragging out through 10 installs becomes expensive. We charge hourly for all furniture design and installs. So we try to do it in a way where we know it's going to be cost effective for the client and efficient for us.
Now, when you're billing, are you billing a percentage of that up front and then they do a recurring fee, or are you trying to, as you go, this work, is it in sections? How is your billing process? And
We try to keep it very simple. So with new builds, we charge hourly until the plans are sent to engineering because someone could need a year of plan help.
sure.
So we do charge hourly until the plans are done. Once the plans are done and there is a square footage assigned, but we do take in a retainer. So we always start with a retainer, especially if we don't know the person. If it's a builder and we work with them all the time and we'll send a retainer out, but we don't require that it's paid before we start work. But with new clients, we do require the retainers paid and the contract signed before we start. So it's usually a mix of hourly and then flat fee. And if the project takes longer than 18 months, it switches back to hourly.
Right.
For
Right.
furniture, same thing. We do just hourly though, and we take a retainer up front. We design everything. We do require that clients pay 100% of the furniture up front before we place any orders.
So smart.
I'm not a
Thank
bank and I
you.
can't afford to be their bank. I wish I could, but And then we actually take another retainer before we stage. And I think this is where a lot of designers go wrong. They'll spend 80 hours putting the design together in the home and they'll leave their client with a huge bill, a huge warehouse bill that the client forgot about probably because they signed
Right.
the contract a year ago. We now work off a retainer for that. And usually when we're done, there's zero bill and sometimes there's even a credit back if we've had to like take a few things back or maybe there were damages that we're not going to be replenishing, that sort of thing. And then we give them a copy of their photography package and our photographer, like we own the licensing to our photos and
Yeah.
we're able to share that with the client and the builder and the subcontractors. And yeah, it's wonderful.
I love that you have negotiated that. I believe me, photographers come after me hard when I suggest to designers that they should do that. But how can not be assured that those photos are going to end up wherever if you don't have rights of that over them?
Well, and at the end of the day, there are, some photographers that we use that don't allow that, and if the client wants a copy, they do have to pay for them. But if there's a photographer available that doesn't charge that, we're going to use them first,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree. I think that that's really smart. At least limit the vulnerabilities of your client because it is their house. So sometimes, I don't mind if a photographer is getting money if it gets into national publishing or things like that. But there are so many things that happen on social media or just sharing that are part of marketing. Like, I mean,
Well, also, we're sharing their photos and they're getting jobs because we're
yeah,
sharing their photos. Other designers are
100%.
calling them. If we get published, we went through the work to get published or paid a publicist or, made the relationship with the editors. They're getting published without any work. Like we're doing the work for their marketing. So I think it's more of like, here we got like, I feel like photographers really like to work with us because we do get published and it's great for them. And it's more of like it's like a two-way relationship.
Yeah, yeah, and it should be. I mean, a good partnership that works for both of you. And speaking of those partnerships, you also do a really great job working with builders. How has that affected your business? You've been able to have great relationships with builders.
It has been key in consistency and being able to hire and, keep employees. I think it would be hard as a designer to do one-offs with clients because the thing that I love about working with builders consistently is, well, A, it's like that family relationship. Like there's brothers in this town that are like brothers to me. Secondly, though, I would say getting to know their process and their subcontractors and their foremen, I don't have to spend as many hours on a project.
Right.
If I start fresh with a new person and I have to meet their builder and find out all the subcontractors and learn how he does allowances and how he charges, I'm putting twice as much work into the project.
Right.
For the same flat fee, right? So the flat fee should probably change if we haven't worked with their builder before. But yeah, it's a lot less work if we have a consistent relationship.
Now, has there been any issues in getting that to go both ways where they respect you and they respect the money you're making? Or, sometimes like we get designers who write in to interior design community and they are, being asked, and sometimes I think kind of insulting things like, oh, can you pick all the furniture finishes and do the drawings for $10,000? And I will always tell those designers, no, you can't. That's less. You'll make less money than if you worked at McDonald's, honestly, to do a 5,000 square foot house with all drawings, all selections for 10 grand. And I just think sometimes the builders don't recognize the work that goes into interior design and how actually difficult that is. Has it been challenging to find builders that really respect what you do and how much time it takes to do good design work?
No, I mean, builders, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it is really their job to fight for the best price for their client. Sure. So they're going to negotiate every subcontractor. And we are a subcontractor, right. But we're not like a framer where we're coming in for, a month and then moving on to the next project. We're the only subcontractor that stays with the client from plan design to the last finishing touch. And I think they're doing their job by trying to negotiate pricing for their client, and that's respected. I think the only issues we've ever had with builders are just where maybe they're not communicating enough. So they're not looking at our documents we're giving them. They're not reading things. They're not taking the time to go through it and understand, because when you hire a designer, everything's all of a sudden very detailed and custom. And if a builder doesn't have the history of working with someone that's very detailed, they can miss things. And that's where like the learning curve and like working with the same builders over and over again comes into play, because they get to know where to look to find things without having to call and, having us catch mistakes or something.
Well, I think that's amazing. I'm so excited for you that you kind of cracked the code on that.
It's a very small town and, it's like a blue collar town.
I love it though. Which service have you found that produces your strongest profit margin from a design perspective?
So profit margin as a percentage, strong or dollar amount is different, right? And it is really interesting because I always thought furniture produced higher profit margins. It actually doesn't necessarily, but it does produce higher dollar amount because it's product, and that product that someone can buy could be unlimited. And, whereas a design fee, usually it can't be like too much, right? So they're actually very comparable, I would say, as profit margins, but the furniture orders are always going to produce more dollars. We've been really tracking our profit margins lately, like as soon as we merged our financials, and we have an amazing in-house accountant that, provides us with a profit report for every single project the minute it's done, and our hard surfaces versus our furniture. And what we're finding is different builders give us different profit margins because some ask for more help. Right. So some builders, our profit margins are higher because they understand what we're writing down and they don't ask a lot of questions. They don't need us for a lot of job site walks. Like their foremen are so good. Right. So a lot of it has to do with the builder, and then a lot of it has to do with the client. If a client is very time demanding, or it can kill a profit from an entire project. So we have started putting in like max number of hours into our contracts and and things like that. Because you just don't know how a client is going to react to the design or build process until you get halfway. And then it is what it is.
100%. I mean, they could be very slow to decision making. They could be, and that just could be they're a more careful person. They're a more detail oriented person. They require a lot more communication. So I think that's really smart to put a finite number on that, because I've seen too many times a designer getting at the end of a project and then they've really, then if they build it incorrectly or what they thought it would cost to produce the work, but this particular client is a little bit more difficult or a little harder to get things done, then they're working for free at the end of the project.
Yeah. And there have been projects where we've been in the red because we have to pay our designers, to do the work. And all we can do is like really go back, learn from it, talk to our designers. This is our internal max amount of hours. Once we get to 75%, we need to have a meeting. We need to discuss what's left. We need to communicate to the client, these are the things left that we're going to be helping you with.
Right.
And I think a lot of, me and Nikki both try to really mentor our designers, and we're a team and we're all here to learn. Like none of us know how to do everything. And it is important to coach people on how to talk to the clients. And it's okay to say like, we only have like 1 day of work or 2 days of work left and we're done, because otherwise you become really good friends with your clients as you're working together. And some of them don't respect like the 9 to 5. And it's hard. You have to say like, I'll get back to you tomorrow when I'm in the office. I don't want to answer you at night just because I don't want to give you the wrong answer without thoroughly checking. Like just stuff like that, I feel is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Reiterating the boundaries so that you can run an effective business and you can ultimately service them. You want to surprise and delight your client, and you can't do that if you're not making money. I mean, then you get resentful of the client, and it's no fun for anyone.
Well, and I don't think the clients don't want us to not make any money either.
No, of course not. They don't want that either.
Yeah.
And I think they don't keep track necessarily of where the project is going and how many hours have been spent.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, when you're paying someone hourly or when you're paying even flat fee and it calculates hourly, you just, that everything, you could just be sitting and talking for an hour about anything like outside or kids or sports. And you're like realizing I'm paying this person by the hour.
And that's why we like to do retainers, because they know once they've used that, and we do big retainers. And once they've used that retainer, they know, okay, I've spent this much. I gotta, if they do care how much they're spending on this, they'll pay attention.
Yeah. Now, speaking of your team, how many people are on your team today?
So our head office is in St. George. We have a mix of 1099 and employees. All of our designers are employees, but our accountant is 1099. We're going to be hiring a marketing person soon that's 1099. All of our designers and internals are employees. We have a full-time procurement girl, but I actually share her with another designer, so she's not actually full-time. I had a designer friend suggest her to me because she knew I was looking. She's like, I'm happy to share, which was
amazing.
How wonderful. It's so important to make sure you have really good relationships with your competitors, essentially.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Agree. They're in your community. So
yeah, and this designer particularly is slowly phasing out of St. George. So she's in a different position. But so we have procurement, we have 3 designers, and then Nikki and myself. So our team is kind of right now as small as it has been since we started. I think we thought the answer was like expanding our team and expanding our business. And then me and Nikki it is very important to make sure you have a certain quality of life. And the more team members you have, the more work you have as a boss. So it was really important to us to find our sweet spot and just make sure that we had the best quality employees. And that's one thing that kind of came out of the Parade of Homes. The quality of resumes we got was beyond. I'd never seen resumes like this before.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. How many projects can your team handle on a ongoing basis? Like what's the max load for you?
I mean, it depends if there's furniture involved, because if we had hard surface projects, I think we could handle up to 40 to 50.
Right.
one big furniture project, you know how much work that is.
Yes.
If all the projects were full build for full furnish, we could probably do three each, like so. And it really depends on the size and how we have some clients that are just a lot of, time, and then some that are very easy. But anytime we take on or are thinking of taking on a new project, I always talk to the team first just to make sure, because there's always going to be two people on it. And I have to make sure that those two people want to work on another project. And of course, we have an amount of projects we have to do because we have to stay in business. But luckily, we're at the point now where we can kind of pick and choose what we want to take and not feel
I love
obligated to take everything. Yeah.
Now, is there any goal that you have for your design business going forward? Is there something you're trying to do in the next years?
So Nikki really, really wants to design product. I do too.
Okay,
It's just a different arm of creativity.
sure.
And I think like having a licensing deal would be so fantastic and fun and just different. We've both been in this business now for almost 17 years. And just to do something that is a little
Well, you built up
challenging.
a social media presence. I noticed that. And, we just started a program called Real Ready, which is we're teaching designers how to do video content, founder led video content. We've been giving free classes to designers about making the content, and I've been watching some of them do it. We had our first week where someone went viral. They had 750,000 views on a video,
That's
which was really
amazing.
exciting to watch. But we've seen lots of designers now getting more views and getting more followers. And I can tell you one of them got a licensing deal from video content.
That's so
So
great.
I know you're planning on hiring a marketing person. That is where I'd probably start, is founder-led video content, because that can lead you to where you want to go for sure. You start with like video content where you're shouting out the brands, and then you build this great relationship with the brands, and the next thing you know, they're offering to do a licensing deal.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
recently joined the Moen Design Council. It kind of just happened organically. A friend of mine works for Ferguson and he had invited me to a Moen event in Vegas. And
sure.
a guy that was speaking, I was giving some feedback and he's like, there's a council, you should apply. And it just worked out. And so I have relationships with the, and Fortune Brands owns Moen. It's a huge company.
Huge.
I've kind of become friends with some of the vice presidents and the product designers. And it's just fun to be a part of something
I
different.
really believe, and I'm telling you, I know a lot of people who've done lots of licensing deals. I believe part of it is just putting yourself out there and talking about it and making the right connections. It really is. It sounds like this is a relationship business,
It
so
is.
it's not as easy as that, but it really starts there. It has to be a foundation of a relationship, and then of course your talent and the product ideation and delivering at the end of the day something unique and cool that that is marketable. But I love designer led product lines, and I really believe that we as a community need to be buying more of them so
From
that we
each
can get
other.
more out of it. Because I think
Yeah.
that brands would support designer led licensing deals more if we were a little bit more strategic as a community to buy those products preferentially, like just preferring to buy a designer led product.
Well, and I think the biggest reason why it even came around the idea is that Nikki and I were very forward thinking and we're often looking for things that haven't been
Sure.
designed yet. And I think there are some designers that have very good intuition and they're constantly looking for the things that haven't been made yet. And then the next year you'll be like, oh, they're everywhere now. Where were these when I was trying to find one,
I know. Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes brands have told me that, whatever is hot with the design team, they can track the products that designers come to early are usually become their most their best sellers like out throughout the residential market too. So designers are the forefront. They pick the trends, they navigate the trends, and obviously you're part of that too. So we'll just end with a few little fun questions. Which room in the home do you love designing the most? What's your fave?
Gosh.
I know.
I really love doing libraries or additional sitting rooms.
Are you a big fan of the ladders, the rolling ladders?
No, not
No.
necessarily. It's just more about I myself enjoy a little bit more of like segregated spaces and where each space has a soul and there's something different. I don't know. I just feel like there's so many of these open concept, huge, massive homes. And anytime you can design a space that has its own purpose and its own personality, it's just really special.
I love that. And finish the sentence. A house should always feel what?
Personal.
Personal. Yeah. I love that. I just saw somebody say that they want the end of beige. And I was like, for some people, beige is comfortable to them. Beige is comfy and they feel like they're relaxed. And I understand why people have gone more neutral. I think the world has become chaotic and they're like, give me some peace in the house. But I do really love it when someone is brave. I really love when someone will do something exceptional and do something a little bit outside of the box. It's just exciting to see. I love it. So is there a particular project that you can say that you really, really loved working on that maybe we can tag?
Yes, actually, one of my favorite projects. I was just telling someone about it last week. We worked with a couple that was building a home in Kanab, Utah. It was more of like a ranch home. It was on like hundreds of acres in the mountains. They had live horses that were like back in the mountains. And the homeowners themselves were just two of the nicest people I'd ever met. Our first consult on the job site, she handed me a handful of rocks and she was like, and then like she had found this like pot on the property that was old. It was like from the 1800s or something. And she's like, these are the colors that I like for the home. And, basically developing her just showing me those natural materials. Like I instantly knew exactly what she wanted out of this home.
Yeah.
And, just one of the most special clients and properties and that we've ever worked on by far. But yeah, I can send you information.
Yeah, I would love to. And I'll make sure it's linked into this post when we make a post about it because I would just love people to see you, your work, and follow you because you guys are doing some remarkable things.
You.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well,
So
this is
thank you so much
wonderful.
for having us. Your presence in Instagram and the information that you give, I just think is so valuable. It's so important for people to talk about those things. And when I was starting out, I would have loved information like that. And still now, I comment all the time and it's just so important to share information. There's no reason for anyone to have to learn all of this from
It's
scratch.
unbelievable how much the industry has changed just in the 13 years. I stumbled into this industry not knowing that there was a lot of gatekeeping. And I think my ignorance led me to just be like, oh, let's just have a community where we just share information. And I thought that's what everybody should do. And luckily, everyone wants that too, or wants to share information. But it's lovely to see everyone diving in. And, I always tell the designers who are really successful like you have no idea how many designers that are watching your answers. And it really does give them this sense of peace to know that they're not alone in having been through a problem like that. They're not idiots. Those younger designers who are just coming up and who are making mistakes and losing money and in the red on projects, they need to know they're not alone in this. Like it makes them want to give up. And so when there is a successful design firm commenting and sharing their experience and their really truthful, vulnerable parts of that, like we were great at that in the beginning, it gives them so much more confidence to know that they can do it too. That's so wonderful to watch.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you. Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Curry & Company. Designers, you know the moment. You walk into the room and the lighting stops you in your tracks. Chances are it might be Curry. Curry & Company has built its reputation on pieces that feel sculptural, collected, and timeless, from hand-finished chandeliers to statement lamps, furniture, and accessories. Their collection is top-notch. If you haven't explored their newest introductions, take a look. Visit curryandcompany.com